Yo, what's going on, everybody? It is your Commish with another Gatorade Fantasy Football Podcast update. Are y'all ready? All right, let's go get it. Fwa, 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 fwa. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is your Commish with another update. Week 7 is over and done with, and I hate fantasy football. This week, we have a couple more injuries, not as bad as before, but significant nonetheless. For some teams, it has reached that point of no return. It is possible to come back, but it is difficult. Trust me, I know. Last year, I took a team that was about 1-5, ended up going 7-6, 6-6, almost made the playoffs, ruined some teams' weeks, but it all depends on how you finish the season. It's possible, but very hard. And that was a redraft league. This is a keeper league. Things change. You can look forward to the future. So there is that. And as usual, we're going to have some injury news, game reviews, a couple trades to go over, and a whole new set of power rankings with a new number one. What? Fwa, 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 fwa. And let's go to the injury updates. For quarterbacks, we have Carson Palmer, as most of you know, broken arm, probably done for the season. This is probably Carson Palmer's last hurrah, which means it's probably Larry Fitzgerald's last hurrah. And I mean, would Adrian Peterson try to play again after this? I don't know. It depends how the rest of the season goes. If he just gets too beat up, this could be the end of an era, man. I mean, AP, Fitz, and Carson, that's a lot. Excuse me. For injuries, for running backs, we have Marshawn Lynch, who injured his common sense. That was a stupid move. He's actually suspended 1 game, but no real injuries for running backs that I care to update you guys on. For wide receivers, we have Mike Wallace and Juju Smith-Schuster, both with concussions. They're both in protocol, so we'll see how they react to everything. As for tight ends, we have Delaney Walker with a bone bruise with his ankle. We'll see how that goes. He's supposed to be a top tight end pick, but he hasn't really been the past couple of years, I don't think. Other significant injury news: Dan Bailey, kicker for the Cowboys, is out with a groin injury. And unfortunately for the Philadelphia Eagles, Jason Peters, their star left tackle, who's probably one of the best left tackles in the league, is out for the rest of the year with a torn ACL and MCL. Might also be the last you see of him. That guy, about like 6'6", 6'5", 330 pounds. And I think he ran like a 4.5. He used to be a tight end in college, and they moved him to left tackle. He's one of the best ever play. I don't know how this affects Carson Wentz, Zach Ertz, Nelson Aguilar, and that horrible running game. But we'll see. We'll see how the week goes. Oh, and I also forgot to add Jay Cutler, cracked ribs, bruised ribs, whatever it is. They're giving Matt Moore the start this coming week. That I think he's an upgrade over Smoking Jay Cuddy. So start your Dolphins. Maybe Ajayi will not only get the volume but the yards and the touchdown that's needed to make him the fantasy stud that we thought he was. And now let's move on to game reviews. First up, we have Pocket Dogs at Barking Guns with a score of 147.9 to 73.3. And only for the second time this year, someone has doubled another person's score. I think the last time it happened was week 1. It had something to do with Fred. But this is back-to-back 140-point games for Jordan. He's really on a roll here. I'm sucking right now, and I almost do not want to make the playoffs because I would just end up playing him, and I would just end up losing, and I would not have a good draft pick, along with all that disappointment of supposedly having a good team. I hate fantasy football. Jordan had big games from Alex Smith, 31 points, Todd Gurley, 23 points, Mike Evans, 18 points, and the Cowboys defense and special teams, who scored 17 points. Smart move playing them against a rookie quarterback. It was another game with everybody on his squad scoring 10 points, at least 10 points, except for one player, which was Crabtree with 9.9. That's 2 weeks in a row. That's really good. Good for you, Jordan. Fuck you. And for Trey, this is his 5th loss in a row. He started off 2-0. Cam had a horrible game, 7 points, and honestly, even if he had like a Cam game of like 20 or 30, it wouldn't have mattered. He also had Tyreek Hill and Zach Ertz, who both did well. Trey's not doing so hot right now, and we'll look at more of a season-long outlook for everybody in the power ranking section later on. Alright, let's move on to the next game review. And on to the next game, we have ACLs and fibulas at Hard Knocks with a score of 120.8 to 109.3. When I wrote down the notes for this game, I always kept typing Reggie continues to find ways to win, and that sounds pretty negative, and it's actually a good thing, because I feel like he's done a really good job, surviving injuries from Dalvin Cook and OBJ, and disappointing seasons from like Joe Mixon and DeMarco Murray, and yeah, he's probably won a few trades here and there, but I think overall he's done a pretty good job of putting together a winning team, and luckily he did not suffer an injury this week. He had Dak Prescott go off for 32. That was a steal. I can't believe he got Dak for that fucking bum Willie Snead. But whatever. And as did Julio and the Rams defense and special teams, who scored 20 apiece. Amari Cooper finally played like the second round pick that he was, with 41 points, but he was on Reggie's bench, and that's okay. I'd rather have him score 41 on my bench than 3 in my starting lineup. He's been disappointing all season long, so you want to have him prove it before actually putting him into your lineup. As for Josh, he lost this game because of the player that he traded away, Julio. Josh drops his second game in a row despite Zeke playing like there's no tomorrow. Because there might not be tomorrow for him, or not next week or the week after. He scored 43 points, and I guess you can say he fell for that New England Atlanta trap game, as I did in another league, because Coleman and the whole Atlanta offense just disappointed. I don't know how Matt Ryan sucks it up against the New England defense when they've allowed every single player they've played against to throw for over 300 yards. And unfortunately for Josh, with Carson Palmer getting injured, Fitzgerald probably lost all remaining value with that broken arm. So much for Arizona revival with those 3 future Hall of Famers. And let's go on to the next game. And for game number 3, we have slight work at Vitamin D with a score of 101.5 to 107.9. Woosa. Son of a bitch. Another 100-point game for me and another loss. I fucking hate fantasy football. Ugh. Speaking of trap games like that New England Atlanta, that Tennessee Cleveland was a trap game, and I fell for it. Mariota only scoring 8 points, and Derrick Henry, who I thought would be a sneaky flex, only scoring 3. Only bright side to this game is that LaShawn McCoy finally showed up. That's nice, it feels very good for me. And Tyrod also had a good game, but on my bench. But it's something I have to look forward to while Mariota's on bye, until Mariota can step his shit up. As for Mikhail, he beat his big brother because of Jake Elliott on Monday Night Football. Fucking kickers. Mikhail's just another team that keeps on winning. He's on a 6-game win streak, just like Jordan. And he won despite Melvin Gordon's Melly G's poor showing at 4.9 points. One of the biggest things that happened with Mikhail Sunday was the Russell Wilson-Doug Baldwin connection. Really helped. That third quarter 22-yard touchdown was like a 14-point play, and that really, I remember seeing that I had a big lead. It was like 88 to like 70, and all of a sudden I just see touchdown and scores just went up, and I was like, son of a bitch, I'm only up by like 3. But fuck you, Mikhail, I hate you. Moving on to the fourth game that we have on the docket, we have Fried Spam and Eggs at Team Darkness with a score of 59.7 to 95.2. This, fellas, was the game of the week. I said it last week, something we had to look forward to. Two 1-5 teams go head to head for glory, because it's all about pride nowadays for these guys. It's the most interesting game of the week. It determines who stays in the basement, who's moving on up. I just finished talking about the Wilson Baldwin connection. How about that Breeze Ginn? Ted Ginn is 13 for 13 in the past 3 games. Yes, I said it. Stonehands Ginn has caught the last 13 passes Drew Brees has thrown his way. That's ridiculous. He's never done that in his life. That really helped Angel lose this week because it didn't matter, because Adrian Peterson sucked again, because Carson Palmer got hurt and Drew Stanton isn't a real QB. So Angel's going back to having no running backs, unfortunately for him. It's a celebration, guys. It is a celebration. TJ almost scored 100 points, and he only had 2 players with 10 or more points, and one of those was actually Legatron, Greg Zerline, with 15 points. TJ's moving on up, but the biggest thing here is Carson Wentz. This dude is the truth. Like I said it last week, he is actually the MVP front runner in real life football, not so much for fantasy football. If you think there's anyone else in the running, you're wrong. I mean, this guy has made Nelson Aguilar relevant. Only thing, like I said earlier, with the injury news, that the loss of Jason Peters could hurt Wentz. But man, did you guys see some of the plays that he made? Like that almost got sacked and scrambled out and ran for a first down, or when he almost got sacked and threw that fade to Corey Clement or whatever that fucking fourth running back's name is. But Jesus, he is playing outside of his mind. Alright guys, let us move on to the 5th game. For this matchup, we have Evil Doc at Motorboat and Sons of Bitches with a score of 61.1 to 81.9. Alright, the team stream isn't working. I think it's fully time to start thinking about next year for Frank. Marshawn Lynch getting suspended after scoring 0.9 points, and his kicker hurting his groin, and it's very indicative of Frank's team. Ugh, makes sense. I don't know where he goes from here, but he just needs to do something. More on that in power rankings. For Fred, he actually had a disappointing week. 81 points is not pretty considering the amount of talent that he has, but luckily he was playing Frank. It's okay for him to have a down week. Captain Kirk played well, as did the resurgent Mark Ingram, 24 and 19 respectively. Hopkins and AJG both had their buys, so I expect Fred to continue his push for the playoffs. Because we have 3 6-1 teams, someone like Fred, who was 4 and 3, is like right there on the cusp. But luckily he scores enough points, and if he does make it to the playoffs, that's all he needs, because he has a strong enough team. I digress. More of that for the power rankings. Let's move on to the last game of the week, guys. Here we have Fail Mary at Tasha Rain with a score of 112.8 to 79.2. This is the third of the 5-1s to go 6-1, and Josh actually survived a -1 outing by Matt Bryan and a 0 by the Ravens. Luckily, Derek Carr showed up with 32 points. Jordan Reed was somewhat healthy and scored in garbage time to give him 22, and Lev Bell, of course, with 20. All big games. To be honest, if you look at Josh's bench, they almost could have beat Corey's team, and Corey didn't even do that bad. 79 points is, it's low, but it's not Frank or Angel low. Corey drops his 3rd loss in a row, and it might be time for him to start thinking about next year as well. It's not really even his fault losing Aaron Rodgers hurt, because one of the biggest pieces of the Freeman trade was Devontae Adams, who lost Rodgers last week, and he was expecting that stack, but instead he gets a completely ineffective Devontae Adams. It showed a 2.2 points showing this week, and to sum it up, when Blake Bortles is your leading scorer at 16.1 points, it's no bueno. Maybe it's time to move on from what we have now for Corey's sake. And that does it, guys, for all the game reviews. Let's move on to the trades. As for trade reviews this week, guys, we do not have that many, just a couple. First trade is Frank trades Chris Hogan and Amari Cooper to Reggie for T.Y. Hilton and Jermaine Kearse. Hogan actually had his first dud, and I think his second dud of the week or the season, and Amari had his first big boy game of the season. I still think Hogan will probably end up being the best wide receiver in the Pats by year end, and Amari will still end up wide receiver 2. Having a 41-point game will get you there, but I think he'll be decent rest of the year. It was a nice game that he finally had, but oh man, he still has horrible hands. If you guys actually watched the game, he probably should have scored 50 points, to be honest, but he had drops, way too many drops. He had about 3 or 4 drops that I can remember, one of them in the end zone. He's just not good at actually catching the ball. When he gets the ball in his hands, yeah, he's good, but he's had problems catching the ball since his college days. As for, let's see, T.Y. Hilton, it was a nice steal before luck comes back. I don't even think that's actually happening anymore. So, I think Reggie really won this trade because of Amari Cooper and Chris Hogan being the better players, because T.Y. Hilton is not going to be any good, with luck probably sitting the rest of the season. Jermaine Kearse, just to throw in, he's the second option on a Jets team. I mean, Josh McCown can sling the rock, so he could have some value random weeks, maybe the next couple of weeks during buys, but after that, I don't know who would actually end up starting him. Oh, Frank can, because Frank has a bad team. Yeah, good for you. Next trade, we have Manny trading Austin Seferian-Jenkins and Jamal Charles to Mikhail for Chris Ivory and George Kittle. Kittles and bits. Or Corey Bethard, Kittles and Beths. That's a smaller trade, really doesn't do much. Manny picks up Fournette's handcuff, and just in time because Fournette ended up not playing, while downgrading to Kittle as his backup tight end, who shit the bed actually. Mikal upgrades his tight end while waiting for Charles Clay. Ingram and ASJ will probably make a nice streaming duo for the next couple of weeks while Clay gets situated. Ingram might actually be the best out of those 3. I don't know what Mikal would want to do with Charles Clay from now on, but I think after this week, which is the bye week for Ingram, I would probably just start him. We'll see what happens when Sterling Shepard comes back, because he might take some targets away, and if they still run Ingram in the middle and Sterling Shepard, that's where he does his best work. Yeah, we don't know. Maybe Eli Manning will be better as a dink and dunk quarterback instead of trying to throw it far to people because he can't throw. The last piece of this trade was Jamal Charles, who could be a nice lottery ticket for the league, because if CJ Anderson does what he normally does, which is get injured, Jamal Charles could have a lot more touches, and so far this year he's been doing pretty decently with his touches, getting around 5 yards a carry. That's pretty much his career average, one of the best to ever do it. But as of right now, there's nothing to worry about, nothing to write home about, because he's in a 3-headed beast, as they would say, with that fucking cum guzzler Devontae Booker getting some burn. But I hate. Alright, that does it for the trade reviews, guys. Let's move on to them power rankings. And like I said earlier, we have a new number 1, TJ. New number 1. Take the pity, TJ. Take it. This man is on the up and up. Led by the ginger cheesesteak Carson Wentz, TJ is now taking names. Josh Demuno, you better watch out this week. But in reality, no, I will never say it. TJ's number 1. Number 2, we have Jordan at 6-1. Jordan drops down 1 spot, making way for the new king. It's funny that TJ's ginger leader toppled our league's ginger leader. It's a red-on-red crime. Jordan has the best record. He's one of two He's one of two owners on 6-game winning streaks. He has back-to-back 140-point games, and he's second in total points. He is killing it right now. Only thing to keep in mind, he actually has the second least amount of points scored against him, so he's had the second easiest schedule. Number 3 in the power rankings, we have Josh Del Mundo, also 6-1. He's on a downward trajectory because just like everybody else in the league, his TJ jumped all the way to the top. If someone takes over first place, that means everyone moves down one. Even King TJ's next victim, Del Mundo. He's 5th in scoring, but he's still finding ways to win. There it is again, still finding ways to win. 5th in scoring. And moving on to the 4th place in the power rankings is Mikhail, is 6-1. Jordan had the least amount of points scored against him, and Mikhail is the least. Everyone has at least 623 points, which is Jordan at 2nd place and plus, all the way up to like almost 800 points. Points against Mikhail, only 594. So far, he's had the best schedule, or not schedule, but best matchups. Regardless, he's still winning games, and all he needs to do is get into the playoffs with his new lineup of Devontae Freeman and Melvin Gordon, plus Michael Thomas. He still has a real chance to actually make noise in the playoffs. In 5th place, we have Reggie at 5-2. He's actually the 3rd highest scorer in the league, and he's right behind the top 3 teams because they just keep winning. And Reg is winning too, but these guys, they just keep winning. So I can't really put him ahead of them right now. He'd easily jump to the top with a bad week from one of the top 3 6-1ers. If Mikhail or Josh were to lose, or Jordan were to lose, that could pop Reggie up to the top, but we'll see what happens. It's a week by week basis, it's fantasy football. Don't we hate it? Next up, for the last of the top half, we have Fred. Like I said last week, Fred's probably going to climb, and climb he did. He would have climbed higher had the biggest jump if it wasn't for our highness, King TJ. Fred, I think, was 8th place last week, and jumped up to 6th, or maybe he was 7th. I still see an upward trajectory for Fred. In the next couple of weeks, we'll see how things shake up with Jordan and Josh and Mikhail, because I believe that we're going to have some 6-1 matchups. Yeah, Jordan and Mikhail play this coming week. So one of them will have 2 losses. Josh plays TJ, so he's going to lose. Then the week after that, week 9, we have Josh with another easy game against Angel, but Mikhail goes ahead and plays Trey, probably get a win there. Sorry, Trey. And Jordan plays Reg, so that could actually put Reg on the top if he continues to win. Week 10, we have Josh playing me. We have Mikhail playing Josh Shaden, and Jordan gets a free win against Frank. So I mean, looking at the upcoming schedule, we have a few easy games and a few tough games for each of the top scorers, top power ranked. And let's move on to the next one. In 7th place, we have Manny. Ugh, fuck me. Still the highest scorer by 60 plus points. It's all about matchups. Mikhail is scoring much less, but he's getting the right matchups. And despite having a strong team, if the playoffs started this week, I would be out. Like I said, fuck me. Fuck me good and fuck me hard. Next up, we have Josh Shaden at 4-3. Manny was 3-4, and the only reason why he's above Josh is because Josh, I believe, is on a downward trajectory. He still had a decent week total wise, but it's the lack of star power, I believe, that gives me pause whether he can continue to have his big weeks. He has Tom Brady, but Tom Brady disappointed, and that offense is just not playing the way that we're used to. And he has that injury, that AC joint on his left arm. I think that still makes him a little play a little iffy. And this week, actually, about 40% of his production came from Zeke. I mean, 43 points out of like 199, yeah, or 109. I mean, Zeke's lone reception, he had one play where he caught one pass for 72-yard touchdown, which is about 13.7 points. That scored more than half his team did. He has Deshaun Watson and Tom Brady, so moving one of those for another skill position would actually probably be smart in helping him win this year and probably give him better depth for next year. Moving on to the ninth team, we have Tracy, 2-5. He's actually stayed leveled out. It's time to start thinking about next year. I mean, he has a better chance of succeeding this year over Corey. You know, both of them are 2-5 because he has Cam Newton, Tyreek Hill, and Zach Ertz, who I think are better than Matt Stafford, Christian McCaffrey, and Cameron Brate. But I will concentrate on grabbing a franchise player and probably stock up on a couple draft picks, get a few high draft picks. And as for 10th place, we have Corey. He's the 5th slowest scoring team. And he's on that teetering line along with Trey whether to keep trying for this year. Like I said, it's possible. Or pack it up and plan for next year. Losing Aaron Rodgers makes me think he should start rebuilding. You know, like I said, I've personally taken over a 1-5 team and almost made the playoffs, so it's possible. But I would probably start looking for players that could be franchised or 3-pooled. In 11th place, we have Frank. Like I said earlier, the team stream did not work again. Yet. But I think it is time for this cowboy to start planning for next year. And at the bottom of the totem, Angel at 1-6. Guys, he broke 500 points. He broke 500 points. I mean, he didn't really break it. He kind of just tapped it on the shoulder and said, excuse me, mister. My friends are over there. Can I please just pass by? Please? Aw, shucks. Thanks, mister. But you know, luckily for him, out of the bottom 4 teams with Trey, Corey, Frank, and Angel, and even if you want to add TJ in there, if you were talking for reals, no, TJ's number 1. I can't do it. I would have to think that he has a clear-cut franchise player. Probably the reason why he sucked this year is David Johnson. He got injured. That put him in a big hole early on. Now, to fill that 3-pool with some talent, he can probably go David Johnson, then 3-pool Drew Brees, Demaryius Thomas, and Golden Tate. Or maybe trade those guys for some future players that might do a little bit better. Trade him with somebody who needs talent this year. But we'll see. He hasn't made too many good decisions this year regarding his football team, so we'll see what Angel does. And that's it for now, guys. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe if you haven't yet. We posted on the Facebook and everything. I don't even know if Reggie and Josh Shaden and Trey actually even know about this podcast. I should probably send it out in an email with a link to the homepage. But, you know, as usual, any question, comments, and concerns, hit your boy up. Enjoy. Good luck to everybody this week. And I hate you, Mikhail. Commish